Let's talk about Virginia and Maryland. First, a quick review of what you've already read about Virginia. Some Englishmen migrated to the New World for economic reasons. Some of these guys are leaving poverty and seeking land. Others came seeking religious opportunity, and we'll talk about them when we talk about New England. Some people are coming to avoid the strife and conflict that's present in England at this time. Remember, King James I and his son Charles I had fought constantly with the elected members of Parliament, and Charles attempted to rule the country without Parliament's rule. He's trying to overrule Parliament. He's trying to do what other absolute monarchs in Europe are doing at this time. Okay? He's trying to get around Parliament, and this causes a call for constitutional reform and eventually the English Civil War, which is followed by the Restoration period and then what's known as the Glorious Revolution of 1688, where William and Mary take the crown but are limited monarchs in England. Now, in the early to mid 17th century, so the 1600s, the English established two successful but diverse colonies around the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia and eventually Maryland. We'll talk about Maryland in a little bit. We read about Virginia already, and this is mainly established by entrepreneurs, people who want to get into business to make a profit. Entrepreneurs from England who found and create the London Company, or sometimes called the Virginia Company. They're the ones who fund and build Jamestown in Virginia. And if not for John Smith and him saving the colony by taking over the management of the town and imposing military order, it probably would have failed. So let's talk about how Virginia went from a near failure to a successful colony. It has a lot to do with tobacco. John Rolfe, who married Pocahontas, popularized tobacco growing in Jamestown. And he does this by using a milder version of tobacco that was commonly found, that was native to the Caribbean. Tobacco is grown as a cash crop, and people quickly see the benefits of working hard in Virginia. Before, it was all about trying to find gold and get rich quick. Now, if you invest some time and effort into growing tobacco, you can make a profit. King James I originally opposed growing tobacco. He thought it was an awful vice to smoke tobacco, but he changes his mind when his accountants show him the high profits they are getting from collecting the taxes on that tobacco. Eventually, the Virginia Company is going to make some reforms in the way they run Virginia that's going to allow Virginia's population to really boom. In 1680, the Virginia Company is taken over by a new leader, Sir Edwin Sandys, and he encourages the wealthy to develop their own estate in Virginia. And the way he does this is by relaxing that martial law that Smith had declared and was necessary early on, but which is no longer really vital to the colony's survival. In fact, it's deterring people. It sounds too harsh. You don't want to go to Virginia and live under that kind of rule. He also creates the House of Burgesses, which is a local elected assembly that makes some local laws. In other words, he's sending the message to rich, wealthy English people that if you come over here, you could get elected and have some political power. That wasn't always an opportunity for everyone in England. He also has the Virginia Company start what's called the headright system. And this is where you would earn a 50 free acres of land for you, plus an extra free 50 acres of land for each servant you brought over. And this system is so successful in encouraging immigration to Virginia that it lasts longer than the company. And the idea of wealthy settlers exploiting poorer settlers lasts even longer in the New World. But the headright system, which gave people land in exchange for paying for the passage of other people to come to Virginia, leads to a population boom for Virginia. Now, we can't see the big arrow that says Massachusetts. We'll talk more about that in the coming days. Sandys makes a couple of recommendations that are ignored. He recommends that they diversify their economy. Hey, maybe just growing tobacco isn't a good idea. They don't listen. And thousands more people end up going to Virginia. That suggestion to diversify the economy is ignored. A lot of those people that are coming over are the ones who had their passage paid for by others. These are known as indentured servants. These are people who couldn't afford the trip over, so they come over to the New World in exchange for working someone else's land for a set amount of time. Now, most of these are young single men, and they're supposed to work for a set number of years and be taken care of by their master. At the end, they're supposed to get land. However, they are often cheated out of that land. And indentured servants are treated as property. They are bought, they are sold, they are traded, they are even gambled between rich, wealthy landowners in Virginia. As a result of so many young men coming to Virginia, there is a 6-to-1 male to female ratio in Virginia, which means most young men are not going to get married. Another reason they're probably not going to get married is that there's a high mortality rate. There is a much higher mortality rate than, say, in New England. There are contagious diseases in the Virginia colonies, and there is salt in the water supply. All of this gives Virginia a real sense of impermanence, meaning people don't go to Virginia to start a new life. People go to Virginia to make some money and then get the heck out of there. I'd compare it to like working on an oil rig today. You don't take a job working on an oil rig today to work there until your dying days. You work it to make a high profit and then go do something else. And there are problems in Virginia. Why so many problems? Well, there's corruption. There's corruption on both sides of the Atlantic. The Virginia Company is out to make a profit. So they're just sending people to Virginia without asking questions like, is there enough housing? Is there enough food available for these people? Remember, when you're growing mostly tobacco, feeding your population might be a problem. There's also a problem with local Indians, and that the people of the Virginia colony allowed their defenses to be neglected and ignored. People just think about themselves. When people think, I'm not going to be here very long, I don't care if that wall gets rebuilt or if we maintain good relationships with the nearby Indians, that's what leads to raids by the Powhatan Indians in 1622, and I think one in 1637 as well. Officials in the Virginia Company also grabbed the best servants for themselves and grabbed the best land for themselves, leading to some animosity and bitterness towards the people in charge. By 1624, the crown is embarrassed. The king is embarrassed at what has become of the Virginia colony. So he takes away the Virginia Company's charter. It is no longer a charter colony and becomes a royal colony. That means the crown is in charge. That means the king is going to appoint the governor. The king is going to appoint the governor's council. But what do we do with that House of Burgesses, which is made up of mostly wealthy planters from Virginia? What to do with the House of Burgesses is not addressed after the 1624 takeover and Virginia becoming a royal colony. So the House of Burgesses just continued to meet, just continued to do business, continued to run the colony's day-to-day operations and make some of the local laws like they had always done. And eventually, they're recognized by King Charles I. Now, he has a few problems at home. Namely, he becomes about a head shorter at the end of the English Civil War. And that means Virginia is really left to run itself. And local government is very important in Virginia. The House of Burgesses divides Virginia into 8 counties, and each of these 8 counties is going to have what's called a county court, which is made up of the wealthy planters in that county. And they are going to govern that county, and they're going to serve as the court of law in that county. And that's why today in the South, if you go to Virginia or farther south, the county is still the most important level for legal reasons, for social reasons, for political reasons, and for economic activity in the South, okay? Even after the American Revolution, this idea of the county, not the town like maybe we have here where we have Delaware City schools. If you go down south, there's a lot of school districts that are based off of the county.